Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Torah is for Everyone. And tonight we're going to look at Tetzaveh. It's all about certain instructions of the inauguration of the Kohanim, the who are going to be serving in the temple. And it's amazing how much, like I say every week, how many wonderful things we find in this that we can apply to our lives. So let me just straighten out my notes here. I'm hoping that I'll be able to impart to you everything that I want to. I'm going to be using a new application tonight. Let me share the screen. And it's called, it's the version of the Tanakh Bible. So you see it clearly and easily?
Yes, it's pretty clear,
Okay.
pretty key.
So it's Tetzaveh. Tetzaveh comes from the same root as when we say mitzvot. It's a command. You shall command the people of Israel that they bring you pure beaten olive oil for the light. These are. It doesn't
Oil,
say. Pardon?
here it's written oil olive, beaten oil olive.
Yes. What did I say? Olive oil?
Yeah.
Oh well, doesn't matter. It's made oil. It, it's
You said
olive.
beaten oil, beaten oil olive. Okay.
Yeah, it should be olive oil
Right, right.
for the light, for the lamp to burn always. This is the term here is called ner tamid. Anytime you go into a synagogue, you will see, even or when we go into paper mints where we do our Jewish funerals, you'll always see the ner tamid, which is the light that burns always, continuously. And in the tent of meeting, the Ochel Moed, outside the veil, which is before the testimony is the edut, which is in the ark. It's the Ten Commandments. That's the testimony. Aaron and his sons shall order it, or they have to take care of these lights from evening to morning before the Lord. I guess they say evening to morning because day starts in the evening. We always start our day in the evening, but it was supposed to be continually. So I don't know why it says from evening to morning. Any, what do you think about this? I don't know.
Let's just think about in the tent of the, what your question is?
Well, it's just, I wonder why. I mean, it's not that urgent, but nothing is there for no reason when we read God's word.
So you're saying why is the
It
lamp
says,
supposed to be
it
left
says,
burning?
me'erev ad boker, from the evening until the morning. His sons, they have to take care of the lights to make sure that they would never go out. So do they only take care of it at night from evening to morning?
I didn't take that as to be the meaning. In the tent of meeting, the Aaron his son shall order it from evening to morning before the Lord. I didn't even think of it that they had to be standing out. I thought it just meant that they should always be aware that it should be like lit all the time.
Exactly. And how do you do that? They had to make sure the oil doesn't go out. They have to pour oil into it. It's a job. So I guess they had to do this starting in the evening. Maybe in the morning, during the day, they probably had different other things to do. So this was their nighttime job. And it says, it shall be a statute. The statute is here, hukat olam, a statute forever. But the hukat olam, forever doesn't mean a literal eternity. It just means until there's no more Mishkan. To their generations, on behalf of the people of Israel.
I always liked like the lampstand or the candle I always loved that the most of all the things in the in the temple and the sanctuary and the tent of meeting, it's like the eternal God of light.
Exactly.
And God is always talked about as light.
Everything here, we have to remember, and some of the things that most people don't get when they read the Torah, and especially when you come from other religions, is that Hebrew is a language of pictures. So every time we read something, it's like we need to depict, we need to picture, what is he saying? What is the greater picture behind the words? And it says here, it says, take to you Aaron, your brother. But in the Hebrew, ata ha-kerev. Kerev is to approach. So it's like you approach God, Aaron, and his sons. It's deeper, it's stronger. This idea of approaching, it's not simply Moses, take your brother. You're going to be approaching God here. Doesn't name Moses, but that's what he's telling God is telling Moses to do, to help Aaron to approach. Let your brother Aaron approach, and his sons with him, from among the people of Israel, that he may minister to me in the office of the Kohen. Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, Itamar, and Aaron's son. And what occurred to me when I was reading this, from among the people of Israel, originally, remember, all the people of Israel were called to be a kingdom of priests. Every one of us were going to be a king, part of the priesthood. And again, the idea of Kohanim, the priesthood, was that it was a link between us, the people, and God. But now, and this is referring to, because the Mishkan, as we learned from the Rabbi last week, first we see Moses going up to get the Ten Commandments. He's going up to speak to God 40 days and 40 nights. Then we're going to get to after chapter 32, and we're going to go back where Moses is coming back down, and God is telling him, you better hurry down because the people are sinning with the golden calf. But here, that whole scenario is broken. And we go to this Mishkan, because it's the Mishkan and everything that's going to happen in it that's going to cover the sin of the golden calf. That's the picture that God is giving us here. And no longer was it going to be the whole nation of Israel who were going to be the Kohanim, the priesthood. Now he's choosing one man, Aaron. And he's going to choose him to be the high priest. And his sons, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Itamar, are going to be trained in how to be a Kohen, how to minister to the people by going in and doing the sacrifices, doing the various things that we're going to be reading about. Now you shall make holy garments. And it says here, for Aaron your brother, for glory and for beauty. The garments, kadosh, like these are going to be separated, kadosh, from the regular garments that they wear during the week. You shall speak to all who are wise-hearted. And here, I like this version because the other version that we read before said people who are skilled. But it's more than skilled, because it says, Ata tidber al el kol ha-chochmei lev. Lev is heart, chochma is wise, whom I have filled with, and it must say ruach ha-chochma, the spirit of wisdom, so that they may make Aaron's garments to consecrate him so that he may minister to me in the priest's office. And one of the things I thought about was how King Solomon, they say that King Solomon prayed for wisdom. So I heard a teaching just the other day, and it says actually that Solomon didn't pray for wisdom. In 1 Kings 3, it says, when God asked Solomon what he wanted, Solomon did not ask for wisdom. It says, Natata le'avdecha lev shmeya. Shemeya. He asked for a listening heart, lehavdil ben tov vera, so that he could discern between good and bad. A listening heart. That is, it's not with a heart that we can necessarily trust, but it's like if someone is telling us to do something, instead of rushing ahead to try to figure out what they're saying, just listen. And here, God is telling us. So that's a little bit different. He never asked for wisdom. Anyway, that's an aside. But this whole idea of.
But isn't that wisdom? To listen and to.
Yes. Yeah, but here it's not the same thing. Here it's you get wisdom from listening.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wonder if about the garments, if that's where the Catholic Church got their idea of making priestly garments.
Of course. And where did we get the idea? Where did this come from? These things weren't taken out of nowhere, because I was looking at some of the pictures of these garments. And remember, they had left Egypt. And in Egypt, the priests and the priestesses wore magnificent garments. Everything was very ornate in those temples. It's always about focus. God isn't changing what we knew, but he's changing the direction of where we see it. Instead of always looking back to Egypt, to those temples and to the things that they used to wear, their priests with all their jewelry and their finery. Now it's going to be to look to him.
Everything is like that.
Yeah, I have a comment here, Peggy.
Okay.
I had the opportunity the other day of listening to someone, and I spoke to some of the people that were listening with me.
Okay.
And it appears that in some cases, different people will hear or assimilate different ideas what the person said. Depending on, if the person says something nice, if you're in a good mood, you might hear something nice. And if you're not in a good mood, you might hear the criticism. So if a person gives critical and compliments at the same time, depending on your state of mind, you might hear or emphasize that your brain, I don't know, you're shaking. You tell me.
Everybody listens with their own filters.
Okay.
We see through our own filters. That's why we may hear completely different things, even in how it's expressed. But I want to go back. Thank you, Jerry. I want to go back to something that I left out that I found very important. Back in verse 21 here, it says, in the tent of meeting, the Ochel Moed, outside the veil. Now, what was inside, on the other side of the veil, it says here, which is before the testimony, which is where the ark was, where the 10 Commandments are. So he's going to be lighting a light, but it's going to be outside the veil, which means that when the high priest, once a year, that was Aaron, Kohen Hagadol, he would go on the other side of the veil. There was no light, because the light was on this side of the veil. So the only light that he saw when he went inside the Holy of Holies was when God's presence was there. and he stood before the presence of God. That was the only light that was there. That to me was awesome when I thought about that. And
Yeah,
that,
that's amazing.
yeah. And later we're going to see how they had part of the garment that had to be made for the high priest had to be a pomegranate, a bell, pomegranate, a bell. Even that had meaning. And the bells, because if the high priest would go in and he didn't go in a way that he could properly approach God, he could be killed. That's how serious it was to go into the presence of light and bring any kind of darkness. Because it's not a matter of judgment, it's just that pure light will burn up darkness. That's how they were killed. Pure light cannot, darkness cannot stand in the presence of light. So if they died, there would be no ringing of the bells as they moved around. So we're going to see that soon.
True that um if somebody died, they couldn't go into the Holy of Holies, that they had a rope and they were pulled out.
That's what they say.
I wonder if anyone did die who was not there with the
It,
right.
I don't know. It doesn't say, but I guess that there were reasons. Now let me see. I don't want to miss anything because here, these are the garments which they shall make. We have a breastplate and an ephod. I don't want to miss because, okay, sorry. An ephod, a robe, an embroidered coat, a mitre, and a girdle. And they shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother and his sons, that he may minister to me in the office of Kohen. Now, the embroidered coat is the same word, ketonet. Who else had a special coat?
Joseph.
Exactly. We see themes that are repeated in the Torah that the further we get into this spiral, as God teaches us, we start with very simple things, and then the same theme will be repeated, but at a higher level, and we see a reason for them. It's like these things are almost empowered by God. Where did I put it? I make such good notes, and then I can't see it properly. So where am I here? 4, verse 2, verse 4. Yeah, we have the garments. So the breastplate is called a choshen, which is a sacred pouch that the high priest would use to hold the umim and the tumim. And I thought of the umim and the tumim. It's interesting because we're always looking for answers. When I was a kid, I don't know if you had this at home, guys. My father, I mean, I wasn't raised in a religious house, but he had looked like a small bowling ball, a black ball. And when I wanted an answer to something, I would shake the ball, and on the bottom side of it was a flat piece with like a glass or a plastic, and an answer would come up. Have any of you seen that?
No.
No way. Well, Jerry, did you ever see that? It was a way of giving us answers to questions that we just didn't have an answer to. Or people will throw the dice, or they will, toss a
The I
coin.
Ching.
Or the runes.
Right.
Yeah, the I Ching, exactly. Every culture has those pagan practices. But here, God was taking them. He was taking these umim and tumim, which would be used by the high priest, through which God would give them an answer. It's amazing. The thing wasn't changed, the direction was changed.
I was going to say before, even like circumcision wasn't a new thing.
Exactly.
It was the way it was done, for what reason, and the time it was to be done.
Exactly
Eighth day.
on the eighth day,
Yeah,
when science has found that there are a higher K factor, the blotting, the clotting uh, is 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 the fastest on that day.
right.
Yeah, it's amazing. The embroidered coat, the ephod. The ephod was a shoulder piece worn either by the Kohen or the Kohen Agadol, ornamented with gems and gold. And then we had the ketonet, which we talked about, and they shall make holy garments for Aaron your brothers and his sons, that he may minister to me in the priest's office. Now, were these elaborate costumes to emulate the ones worn by the pagan priests of Egypt? But now they have the people focus on the one God instead. That's what it seems. Now, they shall take gold, blue, purple, scarlet. All these are royal colors, and fine linen. Linen was a fabric in which you don't sweat. So, I mean, you would never wear them. They didn't wear wool, they would wear linen. And they would make the ephod of gold, purple, blue and purple and scarlet, fine twisted linen with skillful work, people who had the skill to do these things. And I wondered, where did they get this skill? Did did they learn it when they were in Egypt as slaves? Were some of the slaves, because usually the only thing we hear about was the slaves were building brick, but they probably were also trained in other types of labor, because they would use some of these skills. Yes, they had chokhmah. God gave them wisdom, but we still needed practical teaching. Like, I may have the desire to design a beautiful dress, but I would have to learn how to use a sewing machine, how to sew. So I think maybe they were taught some of these things, because the slavery we think of today is not the same slavery as it was back then. Remember, they had cattle, they had their own cattle. So I think it was a little more advanced than maybe some of us think.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. When you look at the even making the cherubim and
Right.
hammering the gold and all these things, and
Exactly.
making rings. I mean, obviously you had to have those skills.
Exactly. Now, so this is the ephod. It will have two shoulder pieces joined at its two edges, joined together. And the finely done waistband of the ephod, which is upon it, shall be of the same according to the work: gold and blue, purple, scarlet, and fine twine linen. And you shall take two onyx stones and engrave them on the names of the people, engrave on them the names of the people of Israel. So he was going to be taking all these two onyx stones and engraving our names on them. Imagine, that's how important we were to God. Six of their names, meaning the leaders of six of the tribes, on one stone, and the other six names on the other stone, according to their, and the word is toldotam, their histories, their everything. Like, it would have to do with something that related, these stones were related in somehow to the history of these people. And I don't know how they judged it, but God again would have shown them what to do. With the work and the fact that they were surrounded by gold shows the value that we have. Our names, it's like if you're in love with somebody, you make a chain with their name on it, or you can have your own name engraved in gold. With the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravings of the signet, shall you engrave the two stones with the names of the people of Israel. You shall make them to be set in fixtures of gold. By the way, this word make in the building of the Mishkan appears over 200 times. Instead of like, if I make a list and I give it to you, a shopping list, Miriam, and I give it to you and say, please buy me this, and this. It doesn't say buy eggs, buy milk. It's showing how they would be so involved in the making, the forming. They were giving gifts and they would be working hard. It's not that they just sat around and poof, all these things appeared. They were to use their skills. And God gave a framework, but we were given ruach or lev chokhmah. We were given a skill, and each and every one of us, even right here, the four of us, each of us were given a spirit of chokhmah to do something that really somebody else was not called to do. And I was thinking of how blessed I feel in these latter days of my life that the things that God put on my heart to do, I'm finally able to do as my career, to do something I love to do. And that's when we find that we are so fulfilled. We don't go around feeling, oh, I got to go to work today. Oh, I got to get up and do this. Imagine that the fact that these people had that skill and that they would be honored for it and they would feel good about what they were doing and they would be bringing their work that would be part of this magnificent inner place where God would meet with us and speak with us. It's absolutely astounding.
I remember when I was at the school and I was first studying, these books like of the building of the tabernacle and these were the books that, all the books, Numbers, Leviticus, and whatever that was so supposedly boring. The
Right.
temple, the making of the Mishkan was considered kind of boring. And I was filled for the first time over these descriptions.
Yeah.
I like pierced with a certain joy because God, true art for me, I'm going to sort of wax a bit philosophical here, but it's true. True beauty comes from God.
Right.
And creation, God has put that in us.
Right.
It's so special when the idea of the beauty of colors, like when I draw and I see these deep colors, indigo and green and yellow, it's it comes from God and it's
Yes.
joyful. And these passages talking about the specifics of beauty,
Yeah.
stones of beauty. And again,
Exactly.
what you said about names, it's so important that can you imagine names being written, like how recognized we are?
Exactly.
You see, that to me is very different from, because having been through the New Age, and what first struck me in my kind of being drawn into what people used to call organized religion, but I'm just going to use that name because that's the way I thought of it, which I'd avoided for so long. But then I was drawn into it specifically because of the intense individual attention to detail. It was like God was not an amorphous big, everyone is God and there was
Right.
no sense. Everything was like being sort of absorbed into the collective, into a big mass of
Right.
the Godhead and all that. And
Right.
the idea of the worthiness, I know God is a God of community, then that's a fact and a beautiful thing too. But I'm talking now, my experience and the truth of what this describes is the intense beauty, like of a snowflake, of each individual, each piece of beauty, each gem. It's like it was such a piercing of joy that I had, even if it lasted 1 second. But
Right.
in reading this for the first time,
Right.
and then
And we don't have to be uniform. We need to be united. It's very different. God
Right.
was taking each of us. So when you see, like in a religious sect, everybody has to dress exactly the same, all either in black or, covered over. You can't even recognize anyone. But that's not what God is saying. God
And your name
recognizes
is not special.
exactly.
It's so, like, this is so incredible.
I know. And it says, You shall put the two stones upon the shoulders of the ephod for stones of memorial to the people of Israel. And Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord upon his two shoulders for memorial. Imagine, it's like God carrying us. Here, Aaron is the link to God, and he's carrying the names of every tribe so that when God looks down on us, he remembers every one of us. It's just beautiful. And you shall make fixtures of gold and two chains of pure gold at the ends. Twisted like cords shall you make them, and fasten the corded chains to the fixtures. And you shall make the breastplate of judgment with skillful work. After the work of the ephod, you shall make it of gold, blue, and purple. I just don't want to miss anything here. When I saw the breastplate of judgment, the first thing that came to my mind was how justice is always at the heart of God, foremost over everything. And, the breastplate, Rabbi Shaul spoke about it, and we'll see that a little later too. After the work of the ephod, you shall make it gold and blue and purple and scarlet, fine twined linen. Again, then it says, square it, and it shall be doubled. And I thought of here, just the breastplate of judgment needed to be doubled over. And it sounds silly, but the idea that expression, fair and square, maybe this is where it came from.
Maybe it did come from this.
It's very possible.
It's
Square it shall be and doubled. A span shall be its length, and a span shall be its breadth. And you shall set in its settings of stones, 4 rows of stones. And this reminds me of the last verses of Revelation with all these different
Oh,
stones.
yeah, it's so beautiful.
The first row shall be ruby, a topaz, and a beryl. That's in the first row. The second row, turquoise, a sapphire, which is one of my favorite stones, and a diamond. And the third row, a jacinth, I don't know what color that is, agate, and a jasper. The fourth row, emerald, and onyx, and jade. They shall be enclosed in settings of gold. And the stones shall be the names of the people of Israel, 12 according to their names. He repeats that. That's the value of it, of us, like the engravings of a signet. Every one with his name shall they be according to the 12 tribes. So rows of magnificent stones. Any picture that we look at regarding the ephod differed from others. God allows freedom of expression within the limits that he sets for us. Because if you look at all this, you're going to get a picture in your head of what these things look like. But if you had 10 people making a picture, they would all look a little different. You shall make upon the breastplate chains twisted like cords of pure gold at the ends. 2 rings of gold, 2 rings at the end of the breastplate. You shall put the 2 corded chains.
Excuse me.
Pardon?
Sorry. Excuse
And the other 2 ends of the 2 corded chains. Okay, let me pass these. You can read them on your own. They shall bind the breastplate by the ring, and Aaron shall bear the names of the people of Israel in the breastplate of judgment upon his heart when he goes into the Holy of Holies for a memorial before the Lord continually. No, it's not the Holy of Holies, when he goes into the holy place. And you shall put in the breastplate of judgment the Urim and the Tumim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart. where when he goes in before the Lord, and Aaron shall bear the judgment of the people of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually. So I wrote the Urim and Tumim were sacred objects used by the high priest of ancient Israel to seek God's guidance on important questions, especially national or communal decisions that required a clear yes or no answer. And that reminded me again of some of these things of ways when I was away from God, I would use pagan things to do the same thing, and I was never led in the right direction. So God is saying, follow me. I'm going to give you the wisdom of how to listen to my voice, because we don't have a high priest anymore. Now, those of us who have a relationship with God, now we are part of that priesthood. I really believe that with all my heart, because I've seen how God has guided me. And you shall make the robe of the ephod olive blue, and there shall be a hole in its top in its midst. You shall have a binding of woven work around its hole, as if it were the whole of a suit of armor. This is the breastplate. Remember what Rabbi Shaul said? Put on the whole armor of God,
Right.
that you may stand against the evils of this world. We need to look at what we have to do. The priest covered his head. Every single thing he did was to protect him, was to show the world that he belonged to God. And no matter how much of a trial we're going through, we always have to remind ourselves, God is with us. He's got us. We're on his shoulders. You know, what's that beautiful song? You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. That's how I feel when I think about how God is protecting me no matter what's going on around in the world. And beneath upon its hem you shall make pomegranates of blue and of purple, of scarlet around its hem, and bells of gold between them. Now the pomegranates, they were used in Near Eastern symbolism. They represent a beautiful fruit. You know, they say that, we talk about Adam and Eve eating the apple. Honestly, people believe that it was a pomegranate. And we don't know, but it's very possible, because this fruit represents tremendous blessing of good health, of prosperity, of joy. And that was the symbolism in the Eastern world. So you see a pomegranate, a golden bell upon the hem of the robe, and we already talked about that. It shall be upon Aaron to minister, and his sound shall be heard when he goes into the holy place before the Lord, and when he comes out, that he should not die. So God is very clear, and I mentioned it why before. And you shall make a plate of pure gold, and engrave upon it like the engravings of a signet. A signet ring held authority, a signet stamp. If something was stamped by a ruler, it could not be changed. We'll see that during the story of Purim, which we'll read next week, that once the king stamped an edict, he could not even undo his own edict. That's how important this was. And it shall be engraved, Kadosh Layud He Vav He, separated for God. And that's what God wants from us. We are in the world. We're not of it. We are separated to Yehovah. And you shall put it on blue lace, that it may be upon the mitre. Upon the front of the mitre it shall be. And it shall be upon Aaron's forehead. Now listen to this, because something occurred to me here that I hadn't seen before, and I don't want to miss this. It shall be upon Aaron's forehead. Now remember, he was a priest, that Aaron may bear any guilt incurred in the holy offering, which the people of Israel hallow in all their holy gifts, and it shall be always upon his forehead, that they may be accepted before the Lord. Now here it's saying Aaron is going to bear the guilt when the people did something wrong. Aaron will bear the gift. He was the priest. They say about Yeshua, our precious rabbi, he was a prophet, he was a king, and he was a priest. Nowhere do we see in the Torah that anyone had to die in order to bear the guilt. Aaron here was going to bear the guilt.
What does it mean, bear the guilt?
Well, he would carry this guilt and bring it before the Lord so that they may be accepted before God. It's not that the guilt would be carried by him, but remember, he was bringing things before God. So he would bear it and bring it to God.
Okay.
That's how I see it.
More like not a messenger, but a kind
Yeah,
of,
like a messenger.
yeah.
And you shall embroider the coat of fine linen, and make the mitre of fine linen, make the girdle of needlework. And for Aaron's sons you shall make coats, and make them these girdles, and turbans shall you make for them for glory and beauty. It really is all about beauty. Let's see,
I
Aaron.
love that.
Yeah, I know.
So it's just because I see so many attempts to put down in people's lives, not being afraid of being overbearing with like beauty is from God. It's so important.
Yeah. And again, I thought of how, I thought of Joseph's coat, his special coat, and that how God uses, because his was called, this is ketonet, is a coat. It was a special ketonet. Joseph's was ketonet pasim. We don't know what pasim meant. Some say it was a long sleeve coat, some say, but it was a coat that gave him authority in the same way that Aaron's coat gave him authority. These are concepts that are ever spiraling, repeating over time in increasingly complex patterns. And when I think of for glory and beauty, the kavod, it's like the kavod, the glory of God. He put on the turban, represents God's glory, which is why I think men today cover their head with the kippah to remind them of the turbans of old. And for beauty. And then you shall put upon them Aaron your brother and his sons, and anoint them. Here, there's different words that he uses. Because now, you see, if you look at, let's say, a human being like the President of the United States, there's going to be a special ceremony. It's called an inauguration. He's going to wear.
Tonight,
Pardon?
there's a speech tonight.
Yeah, I want to listen to it.
Yeah, I'm taping it.
Yeah, good. The inauguration of the president, and so that everybody in the whole country will know that this man has been chosen to do special. He's been given the power, because he has the ability. And here, it's these men, Aaron and his sons, the first thing they're going to do is anoint them. So the word for anoint comes from the root Mashiach. And that's really important because the whole concept of Mashiach has been adulterated. These men were all Mashiachs. It's very different from the way we look at Mashiach today, which only developed after the story of Hanukkah. We never had this idea before. They would be anointed. And then the next word is consecrated. And the word for consecrated in the Hebrew is, where do I find it here? Here. mile, mileta et yadaim, which means their hands would be filled. Fill their hands. It literally describes the rite, which we're going to read in chapter 29, in which Moses will place portions of a ram, the ram of installation, and unleavened bread into their hands to wave before the Lord, symbolizing their new authority and responsibility. This act filled their hands with priestly authority from God, marking their transition into holy service. The next word, sanctify them. The word for sanctified is kadosh. They would be set apart from all the other people for a role that didn't make them better, was there. What was the word? To minister, to serve God. It wasn't making them higher than other people. They would be in the service of God, in the priest's office. So they would be given a special coat, a special garment, like when you graduate university, you have a special cloak that's put over you. You have completed, you're ready to begin the next stage in your life. Make them linen breeches to cover their nakedness. And I was wondering about that. So I even looked that up, and it says nudity often marked transitions, like initiation into the Mithraic mysteries, where candidates appeared naked and bound. This contrasts with God mandating linen breeches to cover nakedness in the sanctuary, likely distinguishing holy service from pagan ecstatic exposures. There would be ceremonies among the pagans where everybody would be naked, and God was saying, no more to that. You cover yourself up, or you're in big haftzoris. And they shall be upon Aaron and upon his sons when they come into the Ochel Moed, the tent of meeting, or the Mishkan, or the Mikdash. These are all you can use these words, but they all mean the same thing. When they come near to the altar to minister, the altar where they were going to bring their sacrifices, in the holy place, not the Holy of Holies, outside the curtain, and that they do not bear iniquity and die, meaning that they don't do like the pagans do. It is what's called chukat olam, a statute forever. Again, the chukat or chok is a commandment that may not sound, that may not have reason. We don't always know why we do it. We just need to do it. And what does it say here? And his seed forever. This is the thing that you shall do to them, to set them apart, to hallow them, to make them holy. Now they're going to go through the whole service of what they're going to do. They're going to take the rams, the unleavened bread. I'm not going to read them all. This is something that you can go ahead and read. Aaron and his sons shall bring them to the door. And now they're going to take the garments, the coat, the robe, the ephod. They're going to put them on, all those things that we read about. Now they're going to utilize them. They're going to pour the oil on them, and they're going to prepare them for their inauguration. They're going to kill the bull. These are all things that you can read afterwards. Take the other ram, exactly. Take some of the blood, put it on the tip of the right ear, the tip of the right ear of the sons, of the right hand, the great toe of the foot, everywhere where they put this blood, everywhere they could hear, whatever they would do with their hands, wherever they would walk, they would remember that they had offered an offering, a ram, and that God was accepting this offering, and that they would be ready for their role. The high priest wasn't killed, an animal was killed. Nowhere in the Torah was a human being killed to use their blood to forgive the sins. This is a complete fabrication of religion. And then you can
But Peggy,
continue.
even more than that, because the blood itself, whether it be of an animal or a human, is not needed for the actual forgiveness.
Exactly, because here, look, it says 1 loaf of bread, a cake of oiled bread, a wafer out of the basket, an unleavened bread. Those were things that were used also.
Yeah.
Okay, all put into the hands of Aaron and his sons. They were all received. This is all a dramatic ceremony, just like we're going to go and listen to the ceremony of the President of the United States. Here, this is done before all the people of Israel. They're watching this, and they're going to understand that now they have this link. Whenever they do something wrong, they could go to the priest. They go to him, take an animal, offer it, and they would learn, and the priest would consult with God, and they would learn what they would have to do to make atonement. And they shall eat those things with which the atonement was made, to consecrate and sanctify them. But a stranger, it doesn't say a ger. The stranger was one who was really not interested in being part of Israel. They could not eat of it. Any of the meat of them couldn't remain until the morning. They had to burn the remainder of it. It shall not be eaten, because it is holy for whatever reasons God chose to do that. 7 days you shall make an altar, an atonement for the altar, sanctified it, and shall be an altar most holy. Whatever touches the altar shall be set apart. And this is what you shall offer: 2 lambs on the first year of the first year, day by day, continually. Imagine, 1 lamb you shall offer in the morning, the other lamb you shall offer. And these animals were animals of thanksgiving, or animals of to be eaten by the people. They weren't just killed. There was a reason. There shall be a continual burnt offering throughout the generations at the door of the tent of meeting before the Lord, where I will meet you to speak to you there. And there I will meet with the people of Israel, and it shall be separated by my kavod. We have to remember that God would meet us. So our behavior was so important to him, because if we came to him with a wrong attitude, we could lose our lives. This was the beginning of a people who would have to be the example, the testimony for the rest of the world. This isn't just for us. We were being set, the priesthood is being set apart from the people, but the people were going to be set apart from the world in order to show them the right way, not to make us better. I will set apart the tent of meeting and the altar. From what? From the pagan ones. I will set apart Aaron and his sons, and I will dwell among the children of Israel, and will be their God. And they shall know that I am the Lord their God, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, that I may dwell among them. I am the Lord their God. This is crucial. This is the solution for every problem that the entire world is going through right now. Because if our people understand that our behavior is so important, because he is dwelling among us. Imagine if I know that everywhere I go, God is with me, watching me. I'm going to be really careful about what I do. And when I slip, let's say I get a phone call and a friend says to me, I have to tell you something about this person. And I listen and I find it's gossip. God is with me. I'm accountable to him. And I have to tell this person, what you're doing is gossip. Now we have to go to the other person and make it right. Whatever we do, if I go into a store and things are just so expensive, I can't take it and I don't have enough money, well, I'll put something in my purse. God is with me everywhere I go. And how do I judge right from wrong? What's in the ark? What's in the edut? What is it? The only thing that we had in that moment, exactly the 10 commandments. That's all we have to know. And everything else that we're going to be reading in the entire Torah are stories. These are wonderful stories. It's not a book of rules and regulations. It's stories about how the whole earth was created, how we came into being, how God chose a people, and how he's giving us a plumb line, the way an architect builds a building straight. He's giving us the rules by which we could live, that if we make a mistake, we do teshuvah, we can come back. He's showing us what we have to do, and not to keep for ourselves, but to bring to the rest of the nations. He took us out of the rest of the nations so we could go live among them. And wherever we are, they watch us. They watch what we do. Why do you think Israel is always the center of everything? Because we have been called by the God of the universe. It's absolutely a marvelous story. So, with that, let me stop the share. Jerry, I hope you enjoyed that. I caught ya. I caught ya. I know I have a voice that puts people to sleep. Rabbi used to say that all the time. He put people to sleep. But I get so excited reading these portions because they have such meaning. So I want to thank you all for being with me tonight, Miriam, Jerry, Richard, Baruch, and I want to wish you a wonderful week. May God bless you. May you stop and just remember everything that you do, God is with you. When you're doing your accounting, Richard, everything you do, God is watching. Miriam, wherever you go, God is watching. Jerry, whatever you do. Baruch, remember, be kind to the people. God is watching. Give back to him. Bring your best to him. Honor him. Set yourself apart. And I wish you a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week until we meet again next week, God willing. And we'll see you on Shabbat.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Shavua tov.